So guys, right now I'm getting ready to pull apart our Turbo 400 transmission for the stretch string, or, okay guys, ready? I'm thinking about calling this thing Altered Intentions. Now this is Turbo John's car, like you've seen in the previous videos, that we threw together just in like 2 weeks, I think it was. Just throw something that we could play around with a little bit. Well, we get to building the new car that we don't own yet, that we intend on racing in like 2.5 months for $150,000. Okay, so yeah, welcome to the Hustlin' Horsepower channel. Now you get a little gist of what's going on in all this craziness. So we're looking for a 33 to 35 Dodge truck, preferably, because they have the little longer wheelbase than the 4-door sedans or the 2-door sedans. So if we can find a 33 to 35 Dodge truck, that year is pretty decent because the cab size is smaller than the 37 to 37 and old, or 37 and newer, and the length of the cowl, the cab is about the same length, but the cowl length is a little bit different. And basically, long story short, I did a whole lot of research when I built the Homegrown Hustler as to find the 33 truck. It just has a lot of good bones. I'm not going to go into all detail about it, but the 33 to 35 Dodge trucks have some pretty good bones. So if you know of one of those, please reach out to us at HustlinHorsepower@yahoo.com, through the Facebook page. No longer have an Instagram account because someone decided they wanted it more than me, decided to hack that thing, and we no longer have access to the Hustlin' Horsepower Instagram account. So if you see any like nasty stuff posted on the Hustlin' Horsepower Instagram account, negate that, because that's not something, that's not us. We don't have any control of it. It's us, but it's not us. They took it away from us. So also we're looking for a 4-post lift within a couple of hours of like Charlotte, North Carolina. Maybe a little bit farther if the deal is right. It doesn't have to be new, used. 4-inch big block Chevy cranks, 400 raised Jessel belt drive system, and parts to build a new car, basically. So like everything from third member to steering wheel to steering components to so on and so forth. We're gonna need all that. But getting back to the video, Turbo 400, we're gonna be ripping off the bell. This is an aftermarket case. It is SFI approved, so you won't see a transmission shield on this thing or a blanket or whatever, just because we don't need one, because it is an SFI approved case. So we're gonna be taking off the Ultra Bell and the rear tail housing here first. And I just got done putting a little hole in here. Okay, when I had my house up in New York, my workbench, that was one of the first things I did. You put a good 1.5 or 2-inch hole in there, because then the output shaft slides in there and you could stabilize the transmission, and you work on it vertically. Okay, you could drain all the fluid in there. We got a nice cooking pan down there to drain all the junk fluid in there. So we got to go through this transmission, simply because when the shifter was set, when we first brought this car out, it was between first and second. Okay, so guys, if you're new to the YouTube videos, the new Hustlin' Horsepower YouTube videos and stuff like that, we're pretty forward about things. When we screw up, we screw up. When we do good, we do good. That's just how it is. We're real, and that's probably why we don't have a whole lot of subscribers, because we're real. Like, I don't know, there ain't no there's not much faking about it. There ain't much publicity stunts or nothing like that. I mean, some people call this thing a publicity stunt, but wait until I get a couple runs on it, and it's gonna work, promise you. So I'm gonna get back to getting on this transmission here, and the first thing I'm gonna do is rip off this and rip off that, and you probably don't want to see me put an impact gun in reverse and bzz, 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 bzz. So we're gonna skip through all that, and I'll show you the next step after that. Well guys, you can see it all draining. Now if you don't have a good enough table that's like perfectly flat, like this stainless steel cooking table that we garbage picked or pulled out of the scrap bin, I'd recommend making a little bit larger hole so the fluid drains. But since this table is pretty flat, we could get away with a much smaller hole, because it seals up pretty well and the fluid doesn't, you know, escape all over the place. So next thing is we're going to pull off the front pump. And when we pull off the front pump here, a couple of these bolts are going to be threaded for 3/8. So then the 3/8 bolt is bigger than a 5/16 bolt. So then we could put a couple 3/8 bolts in here, and the front pump will actually lift up without having an actual puller. So you just run the 3/8 bolt against here, and since the 3/8 bolt is bigger than the 5/16, put it in there, and you could use it as a slide hammer and pull it out. Then we're gonna pull out the pan and start pulling this thing apart and see how ugly she actually is. So guys, I took one of the tail housing bolts out of the bottom and threaded it in here, and just got a 5/8 wrench here. And normally, like, put a washer on it, or use like a 1/2 wrench, or use the open side and give it a good, sorry, I'm trying to do this all at once. Get a whack, and it lifted up. So I'm gonna do it on the other side, and we'll lift this sucker right out and pull the front pump off. This is an aftermarket billet pump. It's a really good piece, and yeah, there you go. So guys, we got the front pump off. This is a billet piece here. It's a pretty nice piece, and if you got to give that snout right there a little bit of a persuasion with something like a little bit of a rubber hammer as you're hanging on to it and working it out, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't beat on it like it's a redheaded stepchild, but a little bit of love taps, don't worry about it. And as you're working it off, if you're careful about it, you can reuse this pump gasket. But if you're not careful, any type of heat or anything, that gasket will get real brittle and want to crack. So yeah, as long as you're careful with it, you can reuse that stuff. Then you just start disassembling this stuff. Okay. Boop, boop. You got the Torrington thrust bearing here. It's going to go on that. So maybe we'll try to assemble this backwards here. And the thrust bearing there. Boop, boop. Nice. A roller. And start pulling all this stuff out here. This one's going to take 2 hands. So guys, I took apart this clutch pack here, and our clutch pack is a combination of clutches and steels, and you can see that there's no color in there. So there's a possibility that the transmission's just fine. It just cooked some fluid and didn't hurt nothing. But this is one of the clutch packs, okay? There's, I don't know, probably 7 clutches and 7 steels in this pack. But as you can see, there's no color on the steels. Just a very, very slight bit of color there. Nothing to worry about there. And then the clutches are all in good shape. Nothing really bad looking in here. So we're gonna slide this sucker back together. It is so hard working, well, looking through a camera, guys. I swear I got more than 2 left hands. We're gonna slide. Jesus, I give up. I'm gonna slap this back together, put the snap ring back on there. And now this snap ring doesn't have a bevel on it, but some of the ones in the case do, and you got to make sure the bevel's facing the right way. Otherwise, you're going to have issues as far as clearances go. Hey guys, so I got the valve body off because this is as far as you can go until you take the valve body off, and there's a little bolt down here that you got to pull out. So I'm going to take this guy out here, and then we're going to keep on pulling out the last set of clutches down in there. I really like the Extreme Automatics first or second gear leave valve body, but this transmission doesn't have this one. This one's a designated 2-speed transmission, so we don't have that option. My other transmission is the Extreme Automatics. Valve body is extremely fast. Instead of having the external trans brake, it's internal, and it's a whole lot faster release than this one. But hey, this is a designated 2-speed, and this one carries the old school external trans brake that's a little bit slower, and it's apparent in the Davis Technologies vehicle reaction time. You can see that when I let go of the trans brake, there's more of a delay using this style of trans brake than the internal one. But it is what it is. This is what we have. Well guys, we got a problem. The chassis guy got a little distracted and started putting this thing back together. But it's essentially just a puzzle, okay? Make sure it's all going back together. Some people use like a broomstick or whatever and line everything up, but as long as you pay attention to how it comes apart, basically goes back together the same way. If you have to check tolerances, you check tolerances and stuff like that. But like I said, in other parts in the video, we went and took apart the drums and stuff like that and checked the clutch packs and checked the steels. There was no color in the steels, and the clutches still look good. So I'm guessing the train was just a little bit dirty and the fluid got cooked, and nothing really wrong here. So I think we might have lucked out, and I think just adjusting the shifter, we should be back in shape. So we had a little bit of dirt in here and a little bit of burnt up fluid, but really nothing bad. So cleaned up the case, and we're slamming the puppy back together, putting it together like a, I don't know, a backwards puzzle. Now that we got it to this point here, okay, that drum has to go in there. So you got to line up all the clutches here the best you can, and then grab that thing by the input shaft and shake it like, I don't know, shake it like your life depends on it, to try to sit it down in all this, through all the clutches there. It's a bit of a process to get it seated if you're not an expert, but they'll always go. So guys, I got the valve body back on it, and well, it's right here. This guy right here. See how it's concave? It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be flat. And it sits down in there, so my tolerances were a little off. But what I was getting at, starting this short little clip here, is this guy right here ain't supposed to move like that. So that's your shifter lever right here. And as you can see, as you go up, it's got multiple gauges, right? So you got park, reverse, neutral, first, second. Sorry, first, second, neutral, reverse, then park. Okay? Well, if you see how this engages right there, and if I pull this out a little bit, see? You can kind of see it. Sorry, I'm kind of doing this with one hand here. You can see that this guy is moving, but there's almost no engagement in it. And if it happened just there. So you can see right there where it let go, okay? Because this guy got pulled out. Well, the problem is here, someone at some point took this pin out, or when it was originally built, never had that pin in there. So the side load on the shifter disconnects that. So that could have been our problem also, where the car was like stuck in between gears and acting stupid. The shifter linkage was off. I'm sticking to that. I know that for a fact because I checked it after the pass that the shifter linkage was a little off. But this right here, this is what people don't understand. When you go to a race and you're racing for $20,000, you're betting that that guy doesn't fail you. So guys, with like traveling and stuff like that, you know, you spend, let's say you spend $200 in fuel money and $200 in entrance money, and then, you know, $100 in food, and, you know, maybe a gas station snack or something like that on the way there, and so on and so forth. Maybe a t-shirt to support a fellow racer while you're at the track. And you're at the track now and you're getting ready to race. And not having that pin right there, that could cost you. That's why it's so important to put the hours in the shop, going over these things and double checking things. And when I'm putting a transmission together, I always run it through the gears a little bit, put the like check load and side load. You know, I work the trans brake a couple times, make sure it's not going to stick. Go through all those things to make sure everything's going to work out, or that you don't see anything obviously wrong. And that right there, I'm going to stick to my word and say that that shifter cable wasn't adjusted right. Easy mistake, common mistake, not blaming anyone or nothing like that. It happens, but that right there could have also been part of the issue. There's a possibility that this thing came out or was kind of stuck in between gears and then reconnected itself. You never know. Crazier stuff has happened. I try to set up the shifter so there's no side load on it. You set up the cable and everything there was no side load, but we got to replace that pin in there, because that right there, that could cost us, especially with our luck. that missing that pin right there, that could have cost us a race. I just cut up a little piece of stainless filler wire right there, stainless filler rod, trimmed it up, shoved it in there and bent it up, and now it ain't gonna come loose this time. One less way to lose a race, I guess you could say. Well guys, I think that's enough for today's video. I appreciate y'all for liking and subscribing. Once again, we're looking for a 33 to 35 Dodge. What else? 4-inch big block Chevy cranks, 4-post lift, yada yada yada. We're looking for a few things there. And guys, I greatly appreciate y'all for the support. We're gonna get a new filter for this thing. I think I probably got 2 or 3 of them in the trailer, but I need to go find a seal. And we might even order up maybe a little rebuild kit for a Turbo 400, just so we have a couple extra spares. I keep some spares in the trailer, but I don't have something like that seal right there. And normally I'd have a spare transmission with me, something that's not nearly as good as this guy right here, but something that I could steal parts off of if need be for something like that. But hey, There's probably a scrap turbo 400 in the back that if we were going racing tomorrow, I'd be tearing apart just to get that seal out of it. But that's not needed right now. So, hey, until the next video, guys, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. And keep in touch. Appreciate it.